Question. Hello, Kim. I'm very glad I found your YouTube channel, or that your YouTube channel found me, rather. Your videos resonate deeply with me, and they help me understand and embrace myself and my path. Your series about avatars made tremendous sense to me and made things much more clear. In 2016 and in 2021, I experienced 2 severe work-related burnouts, and since then I'm more or less anhedonic. That means you can't experience pleasure in anything you do. Most of the time I'm unable to feel much joy or enthusiasm. On top of that, I have unintentionally programmed myself to compulsively focus on my feelings or breath. Life is very gray, and my body feels as if there is a concrete pole inside my chest and throat. Whenever I try to change it, I become very agitated or even aggressive. I used to be someone who let himself be guided by his feelings, intuitions. But due to my current circumstances, I find it very difficult to access my feelings, intuitions, to make choices, to stay on my intended life path. I have a strong mind will, so I can motivate myself by sheer willpower to do necessary things, but this is of course very tiring. Could you shed some light on my situation and perhaps offer some insights or options for action? Hopefully I managed to make my problem clear to you. If not, please feel free to ask for more information. Well, I think it's clear to me, but again, if what I say here doesn't cover it, you can ask me more specific questions about it. But to me, when I hear somebody goes through this work-related burnout, the first thought that comes to me is that it's because you have put in your divine plan to take a more spiritual approach to life, to focus on resolving psychology and potentially qualifying for your ascension. And your work hinders that. And therefore you come to a point where you just can't do it anymore. And to me, burnout is because there's a tension in your mind. So in other words, you're resisting something. There's something in the work situation, or maybe just being in the work situation, that you are resisting. And as the resistance becomes stronger and stronger, it eats up so much energy and attention that you burn out. You can't deal with it anymore. And so I would very seriously consider if there's something else you could do with your life. Obviously, we all need to eat and have a roof over our heads. And as the person says, I can force myself to do necessary things. So I would say maintain that, but consider could you take your life in a new direction? Find a new way to make a living. Do something you haven't done before. And seriously consider, what is your reaction to me saying this? Even this thought. It's just something entirely different I could do with my life than what I've done so far. Could I take my life in a new direction? Consider what reactions you have in your own mind, in your subconscious mind, to this. Do you have resistance? Do you have fear? Do you have some process that argues against it? Because then I would say, this comes from these subconscious selves that I talk about in several of my videos. And so use that. Whatever resistance comes up, follow it. Try and get to the underlying belief, the underlying assumption, the underlying illusion that relates to what you can or can't do, or what you should or shouldn't do with your life. And try and unravel these subconscious selves, because they are probably related to the subconscious selves that caused your burnout to begin with. It's like what I have seen in some spiritual people is that you have a goal in your life plan that is a more spiritual goal. But as you're growing up, you are adopting a certain view in the outer mind of how you're supposed to live your life. It could be you're supposed to get an education, you're supposed to get a job in the corporate world, you're supposed to work there, and you're supposed to, all these things you're supposed to do. And if that is in conflict with what is in your divine plan, that can cause tension, that can cause burnout. So I would very seriously consider that as the beginning step. And then after you see where that takes you, you might have more clarity about your psychology. I think that if you can overcome this conflict in you, you will get back to having a more clear intuition. And suddenly you can begin to better look at the psychology behind it and look at some of these deeper selves that that are causing you to feel stuck, because in a sense it sounds like you're feeling stuck. And as I've said before, anytime we feel stuck, it's because there's something we haven't seen. And what we haven't seen is that there's a conflict. We're being pulled in opposite directions by two different separate selves, or by a cluster of these selves that are pulling on us. And so you are a house divided against yourself because of these selves, and you need to unravel those. But I would start there, as I said, consider, what if I completely changed my life and took my life in a different direction? Look at your reaction to that. And then use the teachings and tools where in my breakthrough playlist I talk about these subconscious selves, and the tools the masters are given to really try and see these. Now, it may also be helpful to you, if you haven't done this already, to experiment in invoking spiritual light from the Ascended Masters, because anytime you're talking about a situation of burnout, it can very well be that you open your energy field to influence some lower forces. So it could be very helpful for you to invoke the Archangel Michael, the light of protection around your energy field, and also call for Astrea to cut you free to any ties to these lower forces, and then use the violet flame also to transform any negative energy that has accumulated as a result of the burnout. That can be very helpful for you to get a clear vision of these subconscious selves. But my suspicion here is that if you really consider this, how could I change my life and take my life in a completely new direction? That will give you at least a starting point for seeing these subconscious selves, because they are likely to scream at you why you can't possibly do this. And you put them in a dilemma, because if they don't scream at you, they can't prevent you from looking, and if they do scream at you, they expose themselves, so they're easier to see. And that's essentially what you want to do with these subconscious selves.